one way in, one way out. I've always said that if you don't know the problem, you can't give or get a solution. There are those who want to give the solution that never really address the problem. This is what's wrong with this thing they call the New Age or New World idea of religion. It doesn't really address the problem of humanity. No one wants to tell the truth. Each wants to be well spoken of, so they don't want to say, for example, that in truth we are all under the wrath of God. If I said to you that you're under the wrath of God, what question would I expect from you after I said that to you? I would expect you to say, why? That's where it all begins. This is asking why we are all. And when I say all, I mean all. All are under the wrath of God. Ephesians 2:3. Among whom also we all have our conversation in times past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. Now, if you can get a society to throw out the Genesis record of the Bible, there's no addressing the true problem. You can see why there's so much attack on just that one book of the Bible. It is the foundation. And if the foundation is removed, how do the righteous stand? Read this in Psalm 11:3. If the foundation is to be destroyed, what can the righteous do? If we don't know the problem, yet hear that we are under the wrath of God, and we live in a society that has thrown out the one book which addresses this thing of a real problem, how would you give an answer to your problem of being under the wrath of God if you don't know the source of this problem? If you throw out the Genesis record or account of the problem of humanity, you return to social, political, and economical, racial, and an untold number of other causes for mankind's dilemma. From what the biblical record says, if you take any other approach to finding the main cause of humanity's problems, you are only dancing around the problem and not addressing it. Forever learning, but never coming to the knowledge of the truth. Philippians 3:7. Never learning, never coming to the knowledge of the truth. You might find temporal solutions to the areas I have mentioned, yet in the long run, the real problem remains. In Colossians chapter 2, verse 20-23, you see Paul attempting to get them to see the real problem. And he warns them that the rudimentary things of the world, its attempts to solve the world's problems, are not of any value as a remedy against the indulgence of the flesh. In other words, Paul is saying what I am stressing here: human efforts to solve its problems, cut off from God, will never accomplish this. It might appear to be doing this, yet where they appear to have solved one problem, they end up creating 100 more. I have addressed this matter of our not knowing the real problem over and over, coming at it in every possible way that I could. It's brought out in the other books I've written called Matters of Salvation and Edified Spiritual Insights. Yet even after all that I've said and written, there still are those unwilling to see it. How do I know that they don't see it? Just listen to their comments. It's written, by your words are you justified, by your words you're condemned. I don't have to judge an individual. As a matter of fact, I've never had to. If I'd only listen long enough, I will hear that they are self-condemned. I've also discovered that a very judgmental person is one of these self-condemned individuals. You might ask why. It's called projection. They're only judging in others those things they cannot accept in themselves. You see this in the secular world as well as the religious crowd. It appears to be human nature to do this. Our conscience accuses us, and we excuse ourselves. Romans 2:15, which shows the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness in their thoughts. The means while accusing or else excusing one another. One way is by judging others or justifying our actions in some way or another. All this behavior speaks loud and clear. We don't know the real problem. Let me see if I can narrow this matter down in the simplest way. So come now and reason with me. If you were born on this planet, you have a problem. Now, if you can come up with some stupid idea that we were seeded from another planet by aliens, you have just thrown out what the Bible gives for our real problem. If you have postponed ever finding out our real problem, as a matter of fact, you may never discover it, unless you can come up with someone who says that they came from outside our total universe of time, space, and material, and offer another solution to humanity's problem. Jesus made such a claim, which I deal with in another chapter. Hollywood movies has given us this: some alien coming to warn us to straighten up or they would wipe us out. Of course, the alien didn't say why we have a problem. They only said, we don't want your problem. If you don't change, we're going to wipe you out. With that, we're right back, still not knowing the cause of our problem. So President Reagan's comment that if an alien threat was to present itself to us, we'd all pull together. Thus world peace would come. It is begging the question. And is only another refusal to face what the Genesis record says is the problem. Think of a recent movie, 2012. At the end of the movie, as the world has been devastated, there are those 3 arcs filled with people from all around the world, of every different culture and creed. What do you think will happen? Let's say after a few hundred years. I'll tell you what would happen. Especially if they refuse to see the real problem. They will be right back to the divisions and at war with one another. Or it would work out that one culture overrides another and becomes a dictatorship, one world order, or as we see on the horizon today. Did you notice that in the movie, the big put down of the, I quote, religious nuts with the paper signs? Also, did you notice the put down of those who saw prayer as a waste of time and being foolish? Then the movie shows them getting wiped out. You get the feeling of embarrassment. You ever thought these things were of value? I don't see their new world in that movie after that catastrophe having any interest in the Bible and what it says of mankind's problem. You do get the strong message of man in the name of man, by the power of man, to the glory of man. We call it secular humanism, a philosophy that openly declares to be atheistic, which says we will save ourselves and do not need God to accomplish this. In our present age of mass media, if you were to take a toll of all that is being said that truly addresses the problem as the Bible clearly states it, I would guarantee that the percentage figure would be a single digit. It's sad that to get any degree of truth today, you have to turn to the web for some answers. But even there, you have to wade through the debris of rebuttals and crazy comments to just find a few with the answer to what the Bible states is the real problem. I thank God that you can still find some answers there. But there is coming a day the outside of ham radios hidden in the wilderness and operating against the status quo, you will only get what this world wants you to hear. Do we have a problem? If you can't at least answer this question with a yes, then you wouldn't even start to consider what the cause of the problem is. You first must be brave enough to say we have a problem. Also to see that this problem is beyond what the media is saying it is. Even beyond what those who are crying conspiracy are saying, along with many of the religious denominations who, sad to say, haven't a clue and are only joining the world in its ideas of a solution to our problem. Let me wrap up this attempt to add more to our coming to see the real problem by saying this. There was only one way into this world. It wasn't initiated by aliens. What is recorded in the Bible gives you this one way in. There is only one way out of this world. What's recorded in the Bible is the only way out. One way in was Beaver once said of parents, Adam and Eve. Throw this out, and you end up with either evolution or aliens. Sadly, the world and its educational system and media promote both. Just start taking notes. See if you can prove otherwise. See this one way into this life as a channel. If the channel is contaminated, all those that pass through it are contaminated. There's no other channel in. So all had to pass through it. Thus all are infected. If you can't understand how you were in Adam and Eve, and thus are infected, just ask yourself this question. If your great-great-grandfather died in his infancy, where would you be? Well, to answer this for the few who might not get what I'm saying, if your great-great-grandfather died in his infancy, then your grandfather, your father, would never have been born, and you would not be here trying to figure out what I just wrote. Got it? So, if there wasn't an Adam and Eve, none of us would be here. But since we are here, we can see, to some degree, that we passed through the loins of this couple. If there was an evil that wanted to destroy all of us, what would it do? Contaminate the channel to which we will all come. So then, anyone born on this planet is contaminated. Now, if there is this God that the Bible mentions over and over, and if this God cannot accept us in this contaminated condition, the only way to solve the problem is to have us all born again to another channel that was not contaminated, thus cleansing us. See it this way. The first Adam contaminated the channel. The second Adam, Jesus Christ, introduced a new channel. He claimed to be this door. John 10:7. Then said Jesus unto them again, Verily I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved. He and he alone would undo what the first channel did to us, thus cleansing us of all infection, allowing us to exit this world back to where we came from. What an evil I thought to do, a loving God has undone by giving his Son as the channel back to him. And you know the rest of the story, do you? Realize this was accomplished before the foundations of the world, something I will address later in this video. There will be more from me on this matter of our problem or condition, and what God has done to correct it. Believe you me, what the world has to offer cannot come close to what God has to offer as a free gift of eternal